This is the Sports Hounds Real Sports Bark Podcast, bringing you current events, news, NFL, NBA, MLB, soccer, UFC, boxing, and more. Make sure to hit us up on the website, thesportshound.com. And now, here's your host, Tigsta.
What is happening, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the Sports Hounds Real Sports Bark Podcast with yours truly, Tigsta. We got a lot of NBA news to jump off with free agency and trades and so forth. So let the drama begin. Now, in case you guys don't know and been living under a rock somewhere, we got multiple players moving and grooving to other places, other teams, and so forth. So let's start off with the Brooklyn Nets. Once free agency hit, we were hit with the news that Mr. Kyrie Irving and Kevin Durant, along with DeAndre Jordan, signing with the Brooklyn Nets. Man. Now, to me, what the Brooklyn Nets had, they were a playoff team, and what was facilitated was you had a sign and trade basically between the Warriors and the Brooklyn Nets to make things work out. So you figure with a first round pick along with Kevin Durant going to Brooklyn, you have Brooklyn sending D'Angelo Russell. That's right. The all-star from the East, D'Angelo Russell, being traded to the Warriors. So now the Warriors have the rights to D'Angelo Russell, who the rumors saying that they plan on moving him sometime down the line. They just needed an asset in return for Kevin Durant, plus to make the numbers match up as far as the contracts and so forth, which, I mean, for both sides it was a good deal. You figure that the Warriors weren't left empty-handed when Durant decided to sign with the Nets, and in return, the Nets get that star player that they can team with Kyrie Irving and DeAndre Jordan. But we all must factor in the fact that Kevin Durant most likely will miss the upcoming season due to that Achilles. So, all in all, it's a good deal. It's a good deal for both. Like I said, nobody was left empty-handed. The East got a little stronger. The West, I think the Warriors is weakening a little bit. I don't think they're as good as they were due to the fact of the quality of players that they've lost. Like I said, Kevin Durant is the main one, the MVP of the finals of the last 2 years, not this season because they lost to Toronto, but the previous 2 years of this before this season, he was the MVP of the finals. But they also lost Cook. Cook went to the Lakers in free agency. They traded Iguodala. They lost DeMarcus Cousins to the Lakers. They also released Sean Livingston. So you're looking at the bench of the Warriors changing. Also, you don't forget Klay Thompson's injury might keep him out until about probably February, an ACL tear. So I know they brought Russell in, but that's just another point guard where you already have Curry. It could work because I see that going on now. That's the main thing that I'm noticing some of these franchises are doing. Are going with like a 2-point guard type set. So you got two guards that can handle the ball. So I think that's just the way that the league and the trends are going in that direction as far as having two ball control, ball handlers in the starting lineup. The 2-guard position is pretty much looked at now as a point guard, 2 point guards. You got point guard A and point guard B, which, I mean, it factors in. It works well. The Blazers does it with McCollum and Lillard, and now you see the Cleveland the Cavaliers. They're doing the same thing with their draft picks and getting 2-point guards to run the 1 and 2 spots. So it's something that's about to change in the NBA. You're going to see a lot of teams probably going that route, which probably get rid of the point forward that Scottie Pippen started, and you got Draymond Green that can run that good for the Warriors also. But now if you got 2 point guards in your lineup, either or can handle the ball and run off the screens, and it works good. I think it's a good little plan. But with that being said, you also had the Los Angeles Lakers making a trade, which everybody knew was getting ready to happen because they tried to do it during the season or after the season last season, but they just now finally got to it where Anthony Davis, the Brow, is going to the Lakers with LeBron James. So now you have LeBron James with Mr. Davis as your 1 and 2 in your front court. That's a big dynamic because defensively and scoring wise, that's real big for the Lakers to do that, considering that they weren't in contention last year with LeBron's first year in the purple and gold. But the thing that they were trying to do was also bring Kawhi Leonard into the fold, which that did not happen. Now, for the big news of Kawhi Leonard, his selection between the Lakers, the Clippers, and Toronto is, get ready for it, he chose the Clippers. Yes, but in order for that to happen, the Clippers made a trade before they acquired the signature of Mr. Kawhi Leonard by trading with the Oklahoma City Thunder and bringing in, guess, not Westbrook at all. They brought in Paul George to team up with Kawhi Leonard in LA. Not the Lakers, but the Clippers done improved their team big time. They were already an 8 seed in the playoffs and gave the Warriors all they can handle in the first round. They brought back Patrick Beverly, defensive point guard. Their team is pretty much intact, but now that you add Kawhi Leonard and you add Paul George, that is tremendous for that team. Tremendous. I mean, you're looking at defense. Man, I'm telling you, the West is not going to be anything to mess with. Because now you got the shooters, you got the Cowboys, they coming in their chaps and their 10-gallon hats, and they about to let you have it. So if you ain't coming armed and ready for the West, I feel sorry for you. Because now, I mean, they're locked and loaded and they're ready to go. In the West, it's going to be a brutal playoff run in the West, regardless of what team it is. Because that's just the beginning. Let me get into the other parts of it. Now, with that being said, let's look at the Utah Jazz. Now, the Jazz has a decent team. Now, what they did to add to their dynamic was they made a trade for Mike Conley Jr. So now they got Mike Conley Jr. with the Utah Jazz running the point, which makes them that much more dangerous because he is an ultimate point guard. He's a pure point guard. He facilitates the offense. He can score. I mean, this was a good move for Utah to increase their chances of becoming that contender, also coming out the West. Also, you have the Denver Nuggets. The Denver Nuggets went into the draft. Everybody passed Bobo coming out of Oregon, Manute Bol's son, which him at Oregon, because he suffered a foot injury. But when he was healthy, you're talking about a 7-foot plus. I call him a power forward. I wouldn't put him at center because he has a touch on the ball when it comes to shooting. He can shoot the three. He has soft touch as far as with the ball inside the paint and block shots. Can you imagine Bobo even coming off the bench at the power forward position with Jokic? I mean, my goodness. Now you have Twin Towers for real.
You want sports? We got it right here. This is the Sports Hounds Real Sports Bark Podcast.
He didn't get drafted until the second round, which a lot of teams, I think, messed up on and let him slide by because he's going to develop. He's going to get stronger. His touch on the ball is going to get better. Now he has NBA coaches to help him and groom him into becoming a pro. He already has the height, which you cannot teach height. Skills you can teach, height you can't. So when you come across somebody who has height, because I remember back in the day, there were players before you had to do the one and done in college that were coming out of high school. If you were 7 foot or plus, you were getting drafted. I don't give a damn if your skills wasn't sharp, if you wasn't that good. Coaches thought that they can coach you and mold you into being an NBA player. But the height is something that you cannot teach. That's something you're born with. If you got somebody, like for instance, Taco Fell. Taco Fell went undrafted in the draft. You figure somebody that's 7'6", 7'7" with shoes and mobile, able to run the court, block shots, and can dunk with damn near on his tippy toes. Something like that you can't teach. So he goes undrafted. And who picks him up after the draft, undrafted, as an undrafted free agent? The Boston Celtics. Once they did that move, that kind of took me back in the day, back with Robert Parrish that they had with Boston, as far as being a big center. He wasn't the dude to score 30 points a game, but as far as rebounding, blocking shots, and altering shots. See, a lot of people only just look at the blocks. You don't have to just block every shot. If you can alter a shot where the percentage of that shot being made goes down dramatically, you did your job. If a point guard, two guard, small forward come, you're talking about a guy that's 7'6", 7'7". Now we're talking about a size that just towering. You know what I mean? It like Yao Ming. Yao Ming had more girth to him as far as weight, but Taco Fell is not like built like Manute Bull. He's not Manute Bull or Bobo. He's not built like that. He has a little more size to him. He's a little more mobile, But to be that size, just imagine they put him on a regimen in the weight room, get a little size on him so he can bang in the paint. Because what I'm noticing with the NBA now, is pretty much the death of the center. There's not really as many dominant centers as they were in the 90s. I can name a plethora of centers in the 90s that may not be Hall of Fame type centers, but they were big centers that they caused a problem for other teams in the paint. I don't care if it was, we go back to the Arvydas Sabonis, Shaquille O'Neal, Patrick Ewing, Olajuwon, Dikembe Mutombo, Greg Ostertag, even though he wasn't the greatest, but he was just a big body in the way. Before him was Mark Eaton with Utah. You had multiple centers, and it's like the death of the center because there's no dominant centers anymore. So if you get someone who's that big in stature, like Taco Fell and Bobo, you have to take a risk. You have to jump out, out there on the edge and go ahead and take someone like that because, like I said, they come with a feature that's unteachable, which is size. Their size is something they're born with. It's a God-given size. All they have to do is instill the technique and post moves. I miss that with the big men, is being able to play with their back to the basket in the paint. A lot of big guys don't do that because you figure a lot of the Europeans come in with the 7-footers and they're all skilled at shooting, which, of course, if a player is skilled at a certain thing that he does well, then that's what you have to go ahead and that's what we're going to bring out in you. We're going to take your strength and make it your strength. Rather than, let's work on your weakness. Let's put you down in the paint, teach you how to work with your back to the basket, develop moves in the paint. But, I seen that with, like, Myers Leonard with the Blazers. Myers Leonard, 7'1", out of Illinois, been in the league 7 years. His thing that everybody knows that he can do is shoot the three. But when you're 7'1", why would you want your 7'1" guy around the three-point line all the time? I would want him to be in the paint, learn how to work with his back to the basket, because it's automatically a mismatch with a guy that size and athletic in the paint. Develop a hook shot. See, Taco Fell, if he develops a hook shot like Kareem had, it's unstoppable. It's unstoppable. There's no one who can stop a 7+ foot center power forward who has a hook shot. That was one thing that made Kareem who he was. Once he went up with that left leg and come up and with that right, with the hook shot, it was over. You couldn't defend it. And once he perfected that where it went down most of the time, there's nothing but you can do but stand around and watch him score too. You know what I mean? If Taco Fall can develop a hook shot at 7-7 on the court, just imagine what this dude will be. You know what I mean? For Boston. Now, speaking of Boston, we also have Mr. Kyrie Irving. Like I said, goes to the Nets. Guess who replaces him in Boston? Mr. Kemba Walker from the Charlotte Hornets. So the Charlotte Hornet point guard leaves Charlotte because I think they lowballed him with an offer. He wanted the full max deal, didn't get the max deal. They tried to lowball him, so he went to Boston, replaced Kyrie Irving, which to me I feel is a perfect fit. You have a different point guard with a different mentality as far as the concept of wanting to be there since he signed as a free agent. So that means he wanted to be there, and I think he will fit fine in that offense. Boston has a lot of weapons, but when you have a good point guard who can facilitate the offense, passing the ball, scoring when need be, I think that was a good fit. So Boston did their thing. And in return, see, here's the domino effect, because you figure you have, with Kyrie leaving, going to the Brooklyn Nets, you have Kemba Walker leaving the Charlotte Hornets, going to the Boston Celtics. Then you have, like I said before, you have D'Angelo Russell being traded in a sign and trade with Kevin Durant in the first round pick, and some players going from Brooklyn to the Warriors. So you have that's just the beginning, because there's some big news coming too that I got for you also. We're just gonna cover everything one by one, but you see the movement of the point guards. The other big news that I have for you is that after Oklahoma City making their move as far as trading with the Clippers, and they got a few young players from the Clippers as well. Plus, the Clippers gave up 5 first-round draft picks for Paul George in OKC. But OKC was not done. OKC just recently, yesterday, trades Russell Westbrook. Yes, Russell Westbrook has been traded. And guess where he went? They traded him to the Houston Rockets for Chris Paul, some draft picks. So now what Oklahoma City is doing, they're rebuilding, but they're stocking up on draft picks. They have multiple first-round draft picks. And if you're rebuilding, that's the best thing you can have. That's assets. Now, you can either draft players, but you must hit on these picks. If you miss on these picks and draft bust, it will set you back. But if you make the right decision and pick the players that fit your system, you shall do well. And also, you don't have to use every pick on draft picks. You can package these picks up and offer them to another team, for a team who's trying to get rid of a max deal type star, or just a star period before his contract ends. They might also be in the mindset as far as rebuilding also. So it can work out both ways, which a team could dump a salary off, knowing they're rebuilding, such as Oklahoma City is doing. Oklahoma City can obtain a young star player who's probably at the end of their rookie contract. Might not be exactly a perfect fit for the team that he's currently with, so that team is looking to move him. Oklahoma City has assets. See, and one thing in the NBA, you have assets. I remember me being a big Blazer fan. Yes, Rip City. I remember Neil O'Shea saying that I remember when he re-signed Myers Leonard and players like that, got Harkless and Aminu and all that. These were assets. When they become free agents, you sign them back. Now, some of them got contracts that weren't equal to their output, with the team. Like Myers Leonard was making $10 million a year coming off the bench. To me, he wasn't worth $10 million, but it was an asset, because what happens is when you have a contract, a bad contract with a player, and it comes to the point of when that contract is ready to end, what that does is a team might be interested in trading for that player, because what happens is after the last year of that deal, it sheds off. It opens up cap space. Some teams might be against the cap. Some teams might just need cap space to get into free agency and sign free agents.
You want sports? We got it right here. This is the Sports Hounds Real Sports Bark Podcast.
So those kind of contracts become valuable, which this is what Portland did. Portland seeing that, and here go another trade that I didn't mention, but we're going to get into it. Notice the domino effect. You have Jimmy Butler, who did a sign and trade with the Philadelphia 76ers, and he's been traded to the Miami Heat. Now the Miami Heat, absorbing Butler's max deal that he got in his sign and trade, had to move some players and also bring in like a fourth team into the trade. Fourth team in the trade happens to be, which the third team was the Clippers. Clippers were the third team. Fourth team were the Blazers. So what the Blazers did was they shedded those final year contracts as far as Maurice Harkless and Myers Leonard, traded. And in the trade, what happened is Myers Leonard gets traded to the Miami Heat. Maurice Harkless goes to the Clippers. Miami sends Hassan Whiteside to the Blazers, which the Blazers been coveting for the last 3 years, free agency and trying to trade for him, but things just didn't work out that way. But now they finally got their guy with, because you figured Nurkic might be out until around February. So now they have his replacement. And then him being a replacement, plus he has a final year on his deal, which he's making about $27 million this year, which is another contract that the Blazers can either shed and get back into free agency, or since this is the last deal for Whiteside might come out and produce like he did back in, 2016, 17, when he had about, 17 points and 14 rebounds on the season average. The boy is a double-double beast. Shot blocker also. Let's not forget about that. So that's something that they brought in that can also be a Nurkic backup once Nurkic returns back to the lineup healthy. But until then, it's Whiteside, which that's the good thing that the Blazers need, is a shot blocker, rim protector, rebounder, scoring in the paint, athletic big man. So that was a good deal. But see, Portland got in on that Miami Heat and Philadelphia sign and trade deal, which benefited, to me, both teams, because now Myers Leonard goes to Miami, which gives Miami a 7-footer who can shoot the three. If that's what they're trying to do in their offense, that might work. You got Jimmy Butler, you got Waiters there. Once it was known that Westbrook wanted to be traded and talked to Oklahoma City about helping him get traded to where would he like to go, Miami was interested. He was interested in Miami. But unfortunately, the numbers did not match up. They couldn't make it work. So Houston jumping in, had the opportunity of getting him and then getting rid of Chris Paul, which the rumors were that James Harden and Chris Paul weren't seeing eye to eye, which I felt those two weren't good for that offense that D'Antoni runs. Westbrook fits better. Chris Paul's more of a set up the offense, run a play type point guard, where Westbrook is just run, attack, which that's what D'Antoni wants in his offense. D'Antoni wants to attack at all times, and I think Westbrook and Harden, especially with those familiar with each other with Oklahoma City back in the day, a few years back before they traded Harden, those two, they're familiar with each other, so it's not like two strangers and you're trying to make it work. They know. They're just older, more mature, and I think this would work for D'Antoni's system. He needs these kind of players for what he's trying to do. He wants to run, shoot, and them is two of the dudes that will run, shoot. So that's another upgrade for that team. Man, it's just so much going on in the NBA. You have let's get into another trade that happened. Portland made with Atlanta was sending Turner. They sent Turner to Atlanta, and in return they get Bazemore. I feel that was a good move. They needed a 3-point shooter. See, what Portland's trying to do is surround their team with 3-point shooters because the things other teams were doing, they were doubling and triple teaming Lillard and McCollum. Now, the options that McCollum and Lillard had as far as getting rid of the ball, there weren't consistent shooters. You had a Minu that would knock down a 3-point shot every now and then. Then you had Harkless, who was not really a 3-point shooter. He'll knock one every blue moon, but that's not what he does. What Portland did was they're loading up on 3-point shooters. Therefore, if you double or triple team McCollum or Lillard and they kick it out, you might get hit with a 3-point shot. Kind of reminds me of how Orlando, when they had Dwight Howard in the center, and they surrounded him with Rashard Lewis and Turkoglu and so forth, who can shoot the three. It's like if you double down on the and see, this is the thing that's going to benefit Whiteside as well. Doubling and triple teaming players now is especially on a team that has shooters. See, that's what the Lakers want to bring in shooters around Anthony Davis and LeBron too, because it's the same, equation out of that. But see, with Portland, they're doing the same thing now that they brought in Whiteside, and that opens up a big man's game because they can't collapse down on the big man, because if he kicks it out to a wide open 3-point shooter, that's more of a threat than him just shooting in a layup for two. So you might as well just, take your lumps with the 2 shot than you will with the 3. So that's another move that happened. Bazemore went to the Blazers as well in the trade with Evan Turner. You also had them re-signing Rodney Hood, which was another good move. They signed Tolliver as a free agent. See, they're getting like wings that can shoot the 3. They can play defense and they can shoot the 3. That's one thing I'm noticing what the Blazers trying to do. So I see that they're trying to eliminate any team trying to double and triple team Lillard and McCollum by opening the floor up. And if you open the floor up for those two, it's going to be problems. It's going to be real big problems. So if it works out the way that they're trying to do it, man, you're going to have issues dealing with him. But a lot of the media is not giving the Blazers their just due. This team finished 3rd in the West 2 years in a row. Last year, of course, they got swept in the first round by the Pelicans. This year, they made it all the way to the Western Conference Final versus the Golden State Warriors. And the thing with that was that even though they got beat handedly in the first game of that series, and they got swept again, but those last 3 games, Portland was up over 15 points in all 3 games. The only thing Portland has to learn how to do is finish. That's all it was, finish. Because they had big lead, even though Durant was out injured. But you got to remember, Nurkic was out for the Blazers as well. So they both were missing key players to what they were doing. So it's not like, oh, well, they were only up by that much because such and such was out. Well, they lost a key player also, so it's it washes each other out. The other moves you have Derrick Rose signing with the Detroit Pistons, which I feel is a good move as well. He's solid, especially if he stays healthy. That's a solid move for Detroit to add him. We see the Clippers got better, the Lakers got better, the Blazers got better, Detroit got better, Denver got better, man, Utah got better. Who else out there? Toronto still has the same team. Might be missing Kawhi Leonard, but they still have the same team. And I think that team whole principle is system. It's built on team. You know what I mean? Kawhi is a hell of a player. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that, he's not nothing. It's still going to be good. I'm thinking that it was a good system that he was in. You know what I mean? Because he quietly dominated. in the playoffs and in the finals against the Warriors. He quietly dominated. But that's him. That's kind of reminds me of Tim Duncan. He probably got that from him playing with the Spurs. Duncan was a quiet assassin. You could not recognize that he had 30 points because he wasn't a raw type player where celebrating every point he scores. He just kept quiet and just played within the system, did what he was supposed to do, and at the end of the game, he had 30 points.
You want sports? We got it right here. This is the Sports Hounds Real Sports Bark Podcast.
That's Kawhi Leonard to a T. You would never know he had that many points in these finals, scoring like he did, but he did. You know what I mean? So hats off to him. He's a champion again, second different team, and an MVP, Finals MVP. So that says it all. And if he goes to the Clippers and he delivers a championship to them and becomes MVP of the Finals, I don't know any player who's been to 3 different teams, won the championship, and got MVP of all 3. He could be the first to do it, as far as I know. Could have been somebody back in the day. I probably wasn't breathing then, but as far as now, yeah, Kawhi Leonard, he's the real deal. He's the real deal, and he's back in the West, and the West is packed. Don't sleep on the Spurs. The Spurs is nothing to laugh at and think that they're not going to do anything. Dallas is another team. Since they added Porzingis last year, that's a good, solid team. In the East, Milwaukee is still in the mix. You got Philadelphia, who, to me, they lost players, but they gained players as well. Al Horford goes from the Boston Celtics to Philadelphia. So that's a big upgrade as well. Who else? Indiana. To me, Indiana is a good team in the East. That's something you got to watch out for. Boston with Kemba Walker there. You can't sleep on that one because that's a good move also. Miami. I think Miami might be like another move away from really being contention. But I feel they'll be a playoff team. They'll be probably a lower tier playoff team, but they will be there. So all in all, the NBA is a lot of movement going on, and I still believe that it's not over yet because you're gonna have teams that's gonna start releasing players. Especially you still got trades, but see I'm looking later down the line, like when you get around the All-Star break and some teams know that they're not gonna make the playoffs or they're not contention. That's when they start moving players. That's when you got to watch Oklahoma City. With all those first-round draft picks, watch Oklahoma City when it gets around the All-Star break in February of 2020 because they have the assets, they have the ammunition to go out there and steal a star player from a team that just gave up and like they know that they're not going to make anything and they want to shed salary cap and plus get some draft picks in return and try to start over at that position of that player that you're trading. So, or they might already have the replacement on the team. Miami already have the center replacement for Whiteside, so it could happen again. But they have Oklahoma City, that is, has the assets to make things happen. Watch them. Exciting team to keep your eye on, the Pelicans. New Orleans Pelicans will have an exciting team. Of course, they got Zion Williamson at number 1 in the draft. They received the number 4 overall pick in the draft from the Lakers from the Anthony Davis trade. They flipped that forward to Atlanta for 2 of their first round picks. So they added players to their lineup. You got Ball that came in over. You got Josh Hart that came in over. They got a nice young team. I'm interested in seeing the Pelicans really because I want to see how they put all this together around Zion. Zion is the next big thing coming out of Duke. He deserving, because the dude is just dynamically just gifted with athleticism that you haven't seen from someone with that size. You know what I mean? He kind of reminds me of a bigger. Remember Larry Johnson that came out of UNLV, Grandmama, with the Hornets? He reminds me of him. Some way, somehow, he reminds me of him because they're beasts. You know what I mean? But he's not like a 7-footer, but he has the athleticism where, man, he's above the rim. So he's going to be exciting to watch. So I look forward to this coming season. The NBA is full of intrigue. Um, a lot of different kind of storylines going on with what's going on. I can't wait to sit back. I just want to sit back and see. I know there's other things going right now. They got the summer league going on in Las Vegas, which is coming down to an end. Um, but after they get through this, there's possibility of or not possibility. What's going to happen is teams are going to fill out their rosters with a couple of these summer league players. Some of them will get a two-way contract with teams, playing in the G League as well as coming back up to the NBA, going back and forth depending on what teams decide and what they feel the fit of that player is. But all in all, man, the NBA is on an even playing field now. Now, you, like I said, you're going to get matchups that's going to be entertaining and that you want to see. There's multiple different matchups that you will want to see. The big twos are back. I'm glad that this happened. I don't like the concept of super teams with 3, 4, 5 star players on a team. It didn't make sense to me. It was more entertaining. Like I said, back in the 90s, even though Jordan and the Bulls ran all 6 championships, it wasn't easy championships. They had to go up against the Sonics. They had to go up against the Phoenix Suns with Barkley. You had to go up against the Blazers. You went against the Lakers. You know what I mean? You had people gunning at you, but they were all capable of winning championships. Even Indiana back in the day, with in the 90s, they gave Chicago a run for their money. Boston was in the mix, giving Chicago a run for their money. The Detroit Pistons, the bad boys, gave them a run, and they even had a couple of championships along the way. The Houston Rockets with Olajuwon, when they got Clyde Drexler on the second of the back-to-back championship they won, they, were in the mix. The New York Knicks with Patrick Ewing was in the mix. The list goes on and on, man. The Charlotte Hornets with Larry Johnson and Muggsy Bogues, the Miami Heat. It's exciting when it's an even playing field. You know what I mean? When anybody can win it on a given day. And that's what we're coming back to with the NBA. I salute you. Same NFL's doing the same thing. Cleveland is no more the Cleveland Browns that you laugh at. I don't think the Raiders will be a team that you laugh at. All the teams that used to be laughed at because they could never get over the hump, I think those days are over with, because now is a lot of competitiveness, especially with like the Cleveland Browns, like I said, with Odell Beckham getting traded from the Giants to the Cleveland Browns. See how that changes? Then you got the Raiders, who Antonio Brown gets traded from the Pittsburgh Steelers to the Oakland Raiders. It changes. Now we're starting to get even. So that we're finally getting to that point where every game will be exciting. Playoffs are going to be just that much more better, because an 8 seed might be capable of knocking off a 1 seed. Going back to when Dikembe Mutombo and the Denver Nuggets knocked off number 1 seed in the playoffs in the NBA back in, in the 90s. In the 90s. See, that's where they're getting back to the 90s. So I can't wait to see what happens. I'm looking forward to next season. But before next season in hoops, we got next season in football. We got less than a month until preseason starts. It should be very interesting. I would like to see the dynamics. We got Hard Knocks jumping off the first week of August with the Oakland Raiders this year. My other team in football, you know what I mean? I got the Blazers and the Raiders is on me. So I'm a homer. I'm going to ride with them. I'm looking forward to see what they do. But all in all, man, I hope you guys enjoyed this episode of the Sports Hounds Real Sports Bark Podcast, episode 26. I look forward to you guys listening. Like, share, leave a message. You can contact us at contact@thesportshound.com. Leave us questions or whatever you want. Man, feel free. You know what I mean? This is our podcast where we discuss sports, man, for the big sports fanatics. This is what we love. This is what we like. This is what we do. I'm Tixter, and I'm out.
Thanks for checking out the Sports Hounds Real Sports Bark podcast. For more exclusive content, follow us on all social media. Twitter, SportsHound 24/7. Instagram, SportsHound Media. Facebook, SportsHound Media. And on the website at thesportshound.com. And tell your damn friends about the hottest sports podcast on the web.